Welcome to episode 4 of Matire Gemi, a bi-weekly podcast where we help you learn about your Agikuyu culture, history, and heritage in English and in a fun, light-hearted way. I'm Njeri your anchor, and I'm here with Waiyaki your cultural enthusiast who continues to immerse himself in learning the ways of our ancestors. Well, here's the thing. Would you be surprised if I told you that Muratina was not an illicit brew? And would you be surprised if I told you that it had a deep spiritual meaning and purpose in our culture and tradition? And that each ingredient had a very specific philosophical reason and intentionality behind it. And that Muratina, when taken, would bless you and everybody involved in that ceremony. Does that surprise you? If it does, then you need to keep listening to this episode. Because in this episode, we cover this topic and we try to open your eyes to the wisdom of our ancestors in a way that will resonate with you deeply, all the way to your soul. So let's go ahead and jump into this topic. And Waiyaki, I think the big question I have to ask you, like I ask you always, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then let's do it. All right, Waiyaki. So I think we should start at a really fundamental place with the question of what is Muratina? I mean, we've all heard of Muratina, but what is it really when we think about it from the perspective of the Agikuyu tradition?
Okay, that's a good question. So, actually, Muratina is a fruit.
Okay.
But the name Muratina is used to signify the traditional Agikuyu alcohol, or what is called commonly known as johi. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about johi, I'm not talking about beer or wine or whiskey, bourbon. I'm not talking about any of those. I'm talking about Muratina, which is the traditional Agikuyu alcohol.
So really, we shouldn't be technically comparing Muratina, our traditional alcohol, with Scotch.
No, we should not.
And I'm sure you're going to tell us why.
I absolutely will.
Okay, that's good. By the way, I should throw in a little fact that I picked up, which is amazing, which is the Muratina tree is also called a sausage tree.
Okay.
Because if you look at the tree, the Muratina fruit looks like a sausage.
It does.
So that's actually one of the names.
That's really interesting.
Did I teach you something?
Yes, you did. I think I read that somewhere a few years ago.
Okay.
But that's brought some memories of the things I've read.
Okay, great. So let's go back and continue talking about Muratina. Tell us more.
So the word johi is commonly known as, if someone says, I am drinking johi, mm-hmm. you would assume that they're drinking alcohol, right? Yeah. Any form of alcohol.
Right.
But so the meaning of the word johi comes from the word kuoha, which I don't know if you know what the meaning of the word kuoha is.
I do.
Oh, surprise.
It means to tie.
Okay, it means to tie. That's good. So the word johi comes from the word kuoha, and the word kuoha means to tie, but in this particular instance, it means johi doesn't mean a tie, it means a seal. So there's a big difference between providing a seal or providing a tie.
Yeah.
You can tie your shoelaces, you don't seal your shoelaces, right? And we'll explore that a bit more.
Got it. So Muratina played a spiritual purpose of sealing.
That is true.
And you'll tell us more about what sealing is. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So maybe we should, before we even get into that deeper spiritual stuff of Muratina, let's maybe talk about maybe the history of Muratina, or, the history of alcohol in cultures and religion. Okay,
yeah. So every culture was given by God something that they would use in their religious activities, right? many cultures in Africa brew their own alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? The most famous or the most widely used alcohol today in religion is wine. It's used in communion in a lot of Christian churches, Catholic churches, the Anglican churches. But so wine came from the history of wine goes back like 5,000 years. And what happened is, and actually in the Bible it says that Noah, after the great flood, is the one who planted the first vineyards in Palestine.
Okay.
So it goes back 5,000 years, even before Christ. And so if you look at, before we look at the Agikuyu culture, let's look at the Jewish culture and what they use wine for. So kosher wine is wine that is used, that is brewed by the Jewish people, and it's used in various religious functions.
Okay.
It's used in during initiation and during weddings, which, if you remember, there was the first miracle that Jesus performed was at the wedding in Cana in Galilee, where he turned water into wine.
Into wine.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a reason why he did that, because wine was used in weddings as a tie.
As a seal.
As a seal. And it was sealing the families that are getting married, like the two families that are coming together.
Oh, it was bonding them together.
Bonding.
It was sealing them together.
I like the word bonding, yeah. It really was.
Okay.
And so in the Passover, they used wine.
Yeah.
Even in which the Passover was during the Last Supper, Jesus used unleavened bread and wine. So wine has played a very significant role in Judaism. And, you know, the reason for that is, you know, the wisdom that came onto the Jews from God to use wine in their religious activities was sort of like, you can say, what is available in our land.
What resources are naturally available?
Exactly.
Okay.
What do we have? What grows around in Palestine?
Yeah.
Grapes grow very easily because of the climate.
Yeah.
And that's why they used wine in their religious activities. So it was kind of like an ode to thank God for this is what you provided us and this is what we're going to use to thank you.
Yeah.
And to praise you and to worship you. Right? So let's contrast that with, and now get into Muratina.
Muratina. So no different.
No different. So the land of the Agikuyu had many things, but one of the most commonplace plant that was found and that is found even today in Central Province and in the Agikuyu land is sugarcane. And, you know, now I'm getting into the ingredients of Muratina. But so the Agikuyu used the resources they had in their land they got that wisdom from God to be able to brew Muratina.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So it's interesting. So what I'm hearing is, and it's such a great contrast or that you're creating for us, because many of us understand, you know, kind of like Jewish history, Christian history, and the role of wine, right, in religious practices. So it's so interesting that I'm seeing you creating that contrast and showing that it is no different, right, that when it came to our ancestors, they used the wealth that was provided by God in their area to create alcohol as part of their spiritual and religious practices and to use it as a seal in these ceremonies. I think that's so beautiful. So I think that the next question I want to ask you here is, now that we understand that contrast is, when did we use it? If it was used as a seal, a bond, and that's the purpose of alcohol in religion, right? So when did we use Muratina in the Agikuyu spiritual tradition?
So I'll first talk about the uses and then say when it was used. And
Okay.
I think from mentioning the uses, then you can understand how and when it was used.
Okay.
So the uses of alcohol, the first major use of Muratina is to bless. So it was used as an instrument to bless. And so it was used in blessings in, say, Arorashio, say during an initiation ceremony. The other use
That's really beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, it was used to
connect
bless.
it, Muratina, with blessing.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah, the other use it was used for was to cleanse a place. It could have been used to cleanse a place where you wanted it to be a sacred place. And we talked about how Kikuyus prayed in the last podcast. So say for example there was a new mogumo tree that they wanted to pick as a place for prayer. So a way to deem the place sacred was to use various things, but one of the ingredients was Muratina.
Muratina, to cleanse the
place
and make it holy enough to worship under.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. Then one of the other uses, which is the crux of what Muratina is, it's a seal. So it was to connect two people, the living and the dead. Which was the people who are living today and the Goma or Gomi. So Gomi is many.
Okay.
Goma, who is our ancestors, it was to connect the living and the dead.
To connect the spiritual and the living.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So 3 uses really. And so even for example, I'll give an example. Before Mogekoyo built a house, bought a piece of land, he would use Muratina and other ingredients in a ceremony or ritual to cleanse the place.
Yeah.
Before they built a house, when they bought a piece of land, they would use Muratina. Always accompanied any ritual.
Yeah.
Because especially if any ritual was involving, like say the transfer of land or because land is ancestral, it has ancestors, you have to use Muratina to be able to tie that event.
Yeah. And for me, I think, Waiyaki, this is really hard-hitting, right? Because I think that we've minimized the value of Muratina and just compared it with alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. Like you said before, Scotch. Muratina is a version of Scotch or any kind of spirits or beer, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But what I'm hearing here, and the reason it's resonating with my soul so much, is that when you go back to the true purpose and meaning of Muratina in our history, and in our culture, right? It was a spiritual brew. So really, even the word alcohol is not big enough to contain it. It was a spiritual brew, right? And its intention, its purpose was it was used to bless, it was used to cleanse, and it was used to seal the ancestral world with the living world. I just think that's powerful and just beautiful.
Yeah, and to add on to that, maybe you're going to already ask me this question is who would drink Muratina?
Yeah, who would? Yeah.
So it was brewed with a purpose, right? So today you can go and buy a bottle of wine or a bottle of scotch or beer and drink it, right? Just to make merry and have fun.
Yeah.
But Muratina was not drunk by children, nor young men, or nor young women.
Really?
It was not drunk. So it was drunk by men, and then there was also times when it was drunk by men and women, which would be like typically a wedding, a gurario, a rorashio. In those events where you have, it's like a party, then men and women were allowed to drink. And it's men and women who have their own families.
Yeah.
Because then, and let me take that back. So in a rorashio, everybody was kind of allowed, except children, to taste, because it was not meant to be brewed so that you could get drunk.
Right.
So it was more to tie those two families together, so they would even just taste a sip and drink it.
Right.
No, it wasn't like, oh, I need 6 cups of Muratina so I can feel good,
Right. Okay.
It wasn't that really.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and here we're not talking about Tusker.
Yeah.
Or wine or scotch.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Muratina was brewed when there was a reason.
Okay, so I think it's now that we're talking about brewing, I think we should talk about in the contrast with other alcohols, what is in Muratina, right?
Okay.
And because I think that should take us into even more of the deeper spiritual meaning and purpose of Muratina. So let's jump in and talk about the ingredients and what is in Muratina. What makes it so special?
Okay. So in Muratina, you have 4 ingredients. So you have sugarcane, sugarcane juice.
Okay.
Like you squeeze the sugarcane, the juice. It's in Kikuyu, it's called gogoyo. So the sugarcane juice, which is very sweet, right?
Okay.
Then you have honey, and then you have water, and then you have the actual Muratina fruit.
Okay.
So those ingredients are the 4 main ingredients that you have in Muratina. And those are widely found in
our lands.
In our lands.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so let's start with sugarcane. So what is the philosophical significance of sugarcane? So and we've spoken about this in Njeri a few times, that any cultural norm that the Mogikoyo had its purpose, or what is called nogorio, which is to be able to give your hopes life.
Yeah.
So when they used sugarcane in Muratina, or when you have the sugarcane juice in Muratina, so we know the sugarcane plant. I don't know if you've ever seen a sugarcane plant, have you?
Are you kidding? Of course.
No.
I've eaten lots of sugar canes.
I don't know if you grew up in the city where you never saw a sugarcane. I don't know.
We had sugarcane in our backyard.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, my dad liked to grow sugarcane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your dad is a wise old man.
He is. He's very youthful too.
So sugarcane grows, when you look at the sugarcane plant, it grows with rings around it.
Yes, and they're hard.
They're hard rings, right?
Yes.
And if you look at a mature sugarcane plant, it has several sections.
Yes.
Based on the separations of those rings.
Yes.
And one of the things you'll notice is that, at the bottom of the sugarcane plant, it's dark. And it's the sweetest part.
Yes.
Because as it grows vertically, the sugar goes all the way down.
Right.
Right? So the meaning and purpose of that was to, when you bless someone with Muratina, which usually you're blessing your children with Muratina, may they have a life that they grow in stages. Like, may they pass each stage of life and experience the sweetness of each stage of life.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And on top of that, when they grow old. So, for example, when you go talk to your shosho, or you go talk to your guka, or you talk to an old person, and they're giving you some nice stories, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever experience that sweetness in their voice, or when they give you stories, they're just so sweet, right?
Yeah.
So, personal story, which is one of the best memories I have of my shosho. So we'd go to her house to play soccer with my cousins, and it would be like 100 degrees outside. We are sweating, and we would go inside her house, and she would make us milk with sugar.
Really?
And I loved that. And anytime I went to see my shosho, she would do something special for me. And it's like you can't experience that sweetness of life. That person who has grown old has a sweetness in their life that is all-encompassing and nice.
Yeah.
So the sugarcane juice really was to make sure that when you, from a child to a young man or young woman to when you're older, may you experience life stages and its sweetness.
Yeah. I just think that's so beautiful, right? Because like you said, there's a choice, right? At the end of your life, towards the later stages of your life, you could be bitter, right? If you didn't experience the sweetness of every stage of your life. So this blessing that comes from Muratina, from the sugarcane juice, to me is just overpowering in its beauty, right? So may you experience the sweetness of each stage of life, whether you're starting as a newborn all the way to an old person. That's so beautiful. Okay, so then what about honey?
Okay, so we'll go into honey. So the bee is a very interesting insect, right? So it's widely known that the bee is one of the most hardworking insects in nature.
Yeah.
And the bee is so wise. So a bee, if you don't know, will leave its hive in the morning, and it knows what trees to go and what flowers to gather nectar from, so it can make honey.
Right.
It knows this flower is poisonous, I shouldn't go there. And a bee never goes to another hive. It knows its hive.
Yeah.
And it can travel up to 7 kilometers a day.
Yeah.
And will never forget, even if it gets dark or whatever, it always goes back to where it came from.
Yeah.
And also a bee knows, usually bees make honey when it's hot. You know why? Because when it's raining or when the weather is cold, the bees stay in the hive and eat the honey, and that's when they produce their that's when they reproduce.
Okay.
So a bee is clever enough to know seasons. It knows it's gonna rain, so I better make some honey so I can, when it's raining, I'll just be chilling.
Yeah.
and
reproducing.
and enjoying my honey and reproducing. Yes. So the wisdom of a bee is, as tiny as it is enormous. And so the Agikuyu, using honey, was blessing their children or their child to, one, never forget where you come from. So you may be in the United States, you may be in India, Australia, Scotland, or even Russia, but you should never forget your roots, where you come from. And then it was also purposing. So the other purpose, which I just talked about, was, a bee is wise. It's discerning. It's intuitive. It knows how to move, and it knows danger, right? So may you be wise in knowing, what trends to choose or what career to choose or how you move in life without falling into traps.
Right. Through all those stages of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, as I said, bees are hardworking. So may you be hardworking. May you, whatever amount of money you make or whatever wealth you gather, may you save it for a rainy day, literally.
Like the bees did with the honey.
Exactly. Like bees do today.
Wow.
So that was the Nogorio of the honey in the Muratina.
That's just powerful. Everything had a deeper spiritual meaning. Nothing was haphazard. There was a purpose behind everything that was done, including the making of the Muratina. So I think it's perfect. Let's go into the third ingredient, water. What was the significance of that ingredient?
So, good question. So last podcast we talked about, I know I mentioned this in passing, but I mentioned that the soil has a female gender.
Yes.
So, do you know who the husband of the soil is?
No. Who is the husband? Oh, water.
It's water.
Okay. Why is water the husband of the soil?
Because without water, the soil cannot produce anything.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Okay, yeah, makes sense, yes.
And so, when it rains, the earth produces. And what does it produce? It produces wealth.
Yeah.
And what did we talk about wealth? What is wealth?
Yeah, there are 5 meanings.
Exactly. Peace, health, knowledge and wisdom, children, and material possessions.
Yeah.
So if there's no water, then there's no wealth. So the water in Muratina really is directing that blessing that, may you be wealthy.
Just stunning.
So that's the meaning of the water. And the water also is what brings all the ingredients of Muratina together.
Okay.
And when it brings them together, it's basically saying, may you be the person who brings people together. May you be, in Kikuyu, may you be a moiguidania wado. So may you, because water is what really galvanizes everything in Muratina.
Yeah, okay.
And in many other drinks for that matter, even in food, it dissolves and it brings things together.
Yeah.
But really the main purpose or theme of water in Muratina is it's wealth.
Yeah.
Because if the earth doesn't have water, if the Agikuyu land lacked water, nothing grows.
Oh.
And your animals will pass on,
Yeah.
die. You'll die of starvation because you don't have any wealth, you don't have any food.
I mean, I'm sitting here in awe because, when you think about Muratina today, you just think about alcohol and you think about all the negative stories, around Muratina, and I actually want us to explore that. But my mind is blown in terms of the significance of it. So let's go into the 4th ingredient, right, which is the Muratina fruit and what the significance of that was.
Yeah, so the Muratina fruit is one of the only fruits that you don't harvest.
Oh.
So what happens is, to be able to make Muratina for ceremonies, for what is called magogona, you can't go and climb up a Muratina tree and start putting them in your basket.
Okay.
Because then if you make it with harvested Muratina, it doesn't pass on the blessing that is contained in Muratina.
Huh.
So what happens in Muratina?
So you can't sow a Muratina.
You can.
You shouldn't.
You can plant it, yes, but you cannot harvest.
Oh, harvest. That's right.
What happens is it grows and it falls from the tree.
Okay.
And then is picked up. So when you make Muratina for magogona, so I'm not saying that you can't make Muratina to drink, but when you make Muratina for its intended purpose, it falls from the tree.
What happens?
And then it's picked up.
What happens if you don't use one that has fallen from the tree?
So that Muratina cannot be used in a ceremony.
Oh, you can use it for enjoyment, but not for a ceremony, not to seal.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the Muratina, you said earlier, the fruit looks like a sausage. So inside the Muratina, have you ever seen a Muratina fruit?
Online.
Okay. If you look inside a Muratina fruit, it has very, very many seeds.
Okay.
Right? And what happens is it falls on its own. Like, it's not supposed to be harvested.
Okay.
And when it falls, its bark hardens and it can't be affected by ants and weevils, because it's like it protects itself.
Yeah.
So the spiritual meaning or the philosophy behind that is, when the falling, it falls after it's old. So may you grow old. May you not die prematurely. And after you fall and pass, may you have left offspring. Or may you have produced, because the seeds in the Muratina, that's what they signify.
Yeah.
So that was the meaning
Okay.
behind the Muratina fruit.
Ah, wow. I mean, candidly, just the significance and the power of Muratina is hitting me. Because I have to be honest, I thought we were going to come on this podcast and laugh about Muratina. Because of everything I know about Muratina, right?
About Murats. People call it Murats.
Right? Yeah. That's what I thought it was going to be. And then here you are, like hitting me with these deep facts about Muratina and its purpose and significance, and I am blown away, right? Like literally, these 4 ingredients that we're taking so lightly, our ancestors had put so much meaning and depth behind it that all we've done is minimize it, right? When we've really reduced it into something that it's not. So really, if I'm just going to summarize the 4 ingredients and their purposes and what Muratina does, right? What its power is in our traditional religion, is the fact is the sugarcane juice, right? So may you go through all life stages and may you experience the sweetness of each stage of life, so that when you grow old, you're even the sweetest that you could be. Wow, right? And then the second, which was honey, right? May you never forget where you came from, which is interesting because we've forgotten a lot of where we came from when we forgot our history and our culture. Our culture and our heritage, thanks to colonialization. But also, may you be wise as you live life, and may you be hardworking, right? So that, then it brings us to the next ingredient of water, right? So may you be wealthy, based on the holistic definition of wealth, according to the Agikuyu, and may you bring all people together. And then finally, the fruit itself, right? May you grow old, may you live a long life, right? And when you do pass on, may you have produced offspring. The significance is mind-blowing. And I love that. So thank you. I really have to say, I love it.
You're welcome, yeah.
So it really prompts this question in my mind, right? Which is the idea of Murats. So Muratina has such a bad reputation. We think about alcoholics and people abusing it. In fact, I think I read that Muratina was just legally approved in 2018. Right? Because before then it was illegal, but now it was approved or legalized for traditional, or cultural reasons, right? So I guess my question is, why does Muratina have such a bad reputation? How can something so beautiful have been made into something so ugly?
So the crux of that question really is when you go back to when the colonialists realized the power of Muratina, or how it was used in traditional ceremonies and rituals. So they probably didn't understand its significance, or maybe they did and they had ways to fight its production, and that's why it was only legalized. I don't know when it was deemed illegal in Kenya, but it's very possible it was many years ago, maybe in the 60s and the 50s.
Right.
Right? Like you cannot brew Muratina legally.
Right.
So I have actually a fun fact about this, which can explain the reason why Muratina has a bad rap, or has had a bad reputation. So in the year 70 AD, there was an insurgency where the Jews they revolted against Roman rule. And so that was in 66 AD.
Okay.
So in 70 AD, the Romans crushed that insurgency and banned the use of kosher wine because they knew it was significant in keeping the Jews' traditions alive. So when you have a situation where you can be able to demonize the use of Muratina, but then encourage the use of beer, wine, imported scotch, imported whiskey, and bourbon, and all those things that you can have a drink as just as a refreshment.
Right.
Then you disconnect the people from its spiritual meaning. And you disconnect the seal between the people who have gone before us and the people who are alive today. So I want to say that the reason is probably the fact that Muratina is a spiritual unifier.
Yeah.
And so you can, and this happened in many Commonwealth countries where the local brews were demonized, but then we'll bring you our own foreign brews.
Yeah.
Yeah, which will make money off you.
And what's amazing is we now, in general, right, when you think about how we think of our own authentic, alcohol, quote unquote, we think of it as backward. We think of it as, we have very many negative connotations for Muratina, but when we think about the imported stuff, right? We think about them as sophisticated, right? Scotch and certain, a cab, anything that is not ours is sophisticated. And it's no different as to how we, uphold and really put external Western things on a pedestal. And the things that are authentically ours, we have bought into the story that what is uniquely ours is uniquely low, is uniquely unsophisticated, is uniquely not good, right? And it takes me back to the quote we talked about last time where we said by J.J. Bola, and I'm going to read it again from Twitter. The demonization of African spirituality and traditions is one of the most overlooked yet most impactful and destructive aspects of colonialism. It removed us from ourselves and our ancestors in so many ways. So when we demonize the use of Muratina, when we took it away from its original intention and perhaps even forgot its original intention, because many of us have forgotten, right? Then what happened is it removed us from that connection to our ancestors. It removed us from connecting with who we are. And Waiyaki, that makes me sad.
It makes me sad too, but I do see, especially online, a resurgence on people recognizing the meaning of and the deep philosophical wisdom that is in the ingredients in Muratina.
Yeah.
I see that.
Okay. Which is beautiful. So let me ask you this question, right? So what about, because you talked about Muratina needs to be used in all of these ceremonies, right? Gurario, all these ceremonies where someone is born, when you're getting married, Urashio, everything, right? So what happens? Because now we don't really use Muratina. Some people may not use it. They may use other ingredients, right? What happens if you have a ceremony and you don't use Muratina? Can you replace Muratina with a beer?
That's interesting. So asking if you can replace Muratina with beer is like going up to the Catholic Church and saying, instead of using wine, why don't you guys start using Johnny Walker? Ooh. It's the same. The wine has a spiritual meaning and significance in Mass.
Yes.
So, I've had a lot of stories in Kenya where families refuse for Muratina to be brought during, say, Arorashio, right? And it's usually because they are deeply religious, maybe they're Christians, maybe they're Muslims, and they don't do alcohol. But what I will ask them is, especially if you're a Christian, which I just talked about a few minutes ago, the wedding in Cana in Galilee in the book of John, chapter 2, when Mary asked her son, Jesus, hey, they don't have any wine at this wedding. If Jesus was against wine or against alcoholism, and he would have said, they don't need wine, they can drink water.
Right.
But Jesus knew that wine was significant in the Jewish culture.
Yes.
So his first miracle was converting water into wine. I mean, he would have dismissed that concept and said, you know what? They don't need alcohol. They don't need to drink anymore. I think they're already drunk.
Yeah.
So even in our own culture, Muratina is very significant. And so, for example, in a rorashio or in a wedding ceremony, a gurario, it's used to seal and to bond the families that are getting married, the man and the woman, their families, and the people who have gone before them, both families. So when you're asked for Muratina in a wedding or in a rorashio, if it's one of the things that they ask you to bring, and you bring money, or you bring 10 trucks full of Tusker,
Right.
you haven't brought a seal.
Yeah.
You've brought money, yes, or you've brought beer or whiskey, but you haven't brought a seal in to seal that ceremony spiritually.
Right.
So when you don't do that, and then you wonder why rates of divorce are high, or for example, you can't stand your in-laws. You're like, man, my in-laws, I truly despise them, or whatever, and even the whole mother-in-law syndrome, which has been the focus of many comedies and movies the world over. When you don't have a seal in a rorashio, there's no unity in that family. There's nothing that is binding you and keeping you together spiritually.
Yeah. Oh.
So that's why you can find that, actually, the people who do deep research on our culture say that one of the reasons you may have alcoholics in your family is because this alcohol that was demanded in, say, your grandmother's rorashio or your mother's rorashio that was never taken is being demanded of you. So it causes your offspring and your generations to be alcoholics. Because it's like a rebuke from your ancestors that, okay, if you're not going to respect our demands of providing a spiritual tithe, then it's not going to become a seal. It's going to tie your offspring.
Oh my gosh! It turns into a blessing, from a blessing into a
curse.
burden.
Yeah,
into a curse, and that's just so powerful. But even there's no seal. You don't get the seal, but you also don't get the 4 blessings that come from the Muratina.
Exactly.
So I guess the bigger question here then becomes, another question becomes, so now someone has gone and they've done their rorashio, right? And they did not use Muratina, right? Because maybe they took beer instead or money, right? In place of the Muratina. What can you do about that? How can you rectify that? This is almost like, what does someone do with this information? Clearly, moving forward, if you're going to have these traditional Agikuyu ceremonies, just make sure that if Muratina is intended to be present, you're using Muratina, and not just any Muratina, right?
Yeah.
There has to be a special kind?
It has to be brewed by someone ordained to brew Muratina. And the history or the process of brewing Muratina is a whole nother conversation, because it involves many individuals who play significant roles in building the hive and being able to know where to place the hive. It's something that we are not going to talk about here, but it's significant in the process of brewing Muratina.
So it's not you don't take the commercial Muratina.
No.
You take the Muratina that was built according to our customs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And there are people in Kenya who brew Muratina specifically for rituals.
Beautiful. That's good to know.
They are available. Those people are available, and you can find them.
Beautiful. Good to know. So you don't take the commercial one. You take the spiritually, for lack of a better term, the spiritually brewed Muratina that was made by the people who are attuned to and know how to build, to brew the Muratina for ceremonies. But now we go back to the other question. So somebody already had a rurashio. They did not have Muratina in the rurashio. What do you do with this? What do you do now?
My advice to them would be to find someone with the knowledge of resolving that disconnect. And you have many good resources in Kenya who can direct you to the people who know how to do this.
Okay.
So there are teachers even online on YouTube that you can call and they will give you advice. I can actually, in the show notes, I can provide the number of one of them.
Yeah.
His name is Morogowa Kemari. He does a lot of speaking on Kikuyu culture, and they can advise you on what to do because the Mogekuyu never had any issue that they could not resolve. But, going forward, I would urge anyone who has a traditional ceremony, if there's alcohol and say your family doesn't drink, the alcohol doesn't have to be drunk. It can be poured. It's not for you to drink and make merry. It's a seal. It's used as a seal and it doesn't have to be consumed.
Yeah, as a seal between your ancestors and the living. Oh, that's just so beautiful, Waiyaki. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for that, Waiyaki. The information that you gave us was so insightful and significant. And I feel so empowered knowing about the spiritual purpose and meaning of Muratina in our culture. Thank you for that. So I guess this is a good time for us to talk about the next episode. So Waiyaki, what's the next episode going to be about?
Yeah, so Njeri, there was an overwhelming response from the last episode we recorded, which was episode 3, Agikuyu Religion and Spirituality Before British Rule. And so we're going to delve deeper into that. So we'll do a part 2 of that podcast we did.
Oh, that's beautiful. So guys, if you haven't listened to part 1, which is episode 3, be sure to listen so that you can be all caught up before the next episode. Thank you for listening and being present here with us today. We are grateful. You can find Matire Gemi on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And be sure to follow us. Our website is matire-gemi at simplecast.com. And this podcast was produced by Waiyaki Shaga and Njeri Diho with sound design by Njengan Gigs. Thanks again, and please share this widely.